Okay, thank you for this opportunity. This is a big event for me, really. It takes a village to raise a child. I don't hear this much anymore. I think this is the best possible and easiest time to do just that. The information we have, various setups of families. I like to call my lecture the theory of everything, even though Einstein was referring to physics. I still think the title is kind of apropos. Try to really cover everything. A list of victims, famous victims. Eminem the singer, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, Kelly Clarkson, Prince, John Lennon, now there's the classic, Tom Petty, Larry Nassar of MSU. I couldn't find his young life listed anywhere. It's really blotted, he has blotted it out. Mary J. Blige, Marilyn Monroe, Marlon Brando, Bill Clinton, Tiffany Haddish, I think I have the first name right, a rising star. Miranda Lambert, Taylor Swift, though I think she was the daddy's girl. Sylvia Plath, a singer from way back, James Taylor, sweet baby James Taylor. I'm not sure about his psychological makeup though. Carly Simon, Oprah, my ex-brother-in-law, my 23-year-old niece who is still alive thanks to her own ineptitude, singer Pink, Jewel, and twice, Whitney Houston. Something about her recently came out. Well, this is what got me in here. Questions occur to everyone daily concerning observed individuals' unwise behaviors, hoarding, drinking, infidelity, abuse in marriages, suicide, etc. Why do some adults plot their lives on emotion? Why don't they stop and think first? A bad upbringing? How could that be a major cause? No parents were perfect, but we're adults. I've met people that say, shrug off the past, or just remember the good stuff. We can reason better, think ahead, be mindful of the golden rule. But emotions follow cause and effect laws. Neglect is a terrible rejection, which is subconsciously underlies adult decision-making for decades. Abuse causes adults to make life-endangering decisions and behaviors. The lifelong negative effects of neglect and, of course, abuse, I don't have to talk about that much, have been repressed in American society for the sake of higher incomes and consumer goods. I came across a play of some women at a college talking about repressed memories of their childhood, and I came up to them later and I shook their hands and I said, thank you, this needs to be out there. A lot of neglect is basically what they experienced, and they made a play out of it. For the sake of higher incomes and consumer goods. Therefore, 40 hours or less per week for fathers is vital for raising psychologically healthy children. I'm not talking about helicoptering, I'm just saying be there, just in case. An addendum recently, early bullying will inspire thoughts of suicide in a person's late teens or early 20s. You don't need that kind of pressure if you're a college student, to have this coming up on you. It's college, and all this entertainment is a bit too much to carry already. Absent fathers. Since Father's Day 2016, I've analyzed adults and their dysfunctions. My red flag is the statements, I'm in a bad relationship, but I don't know why. And All my relationships or marriages, I would even say some relationships with a job, some, employment. I'm in a bad job and why do I stay? The errors of parenting, not teachers, is the problem usually. The old saying is, it takes a village to raise a child, is just so very vital. Attachment theory, demonstrated by Mary S. Ainsworth, has been suppressed since 1967. I do have a few copies of that article because of its profound implications for altering a society's work habits and family life. Ainsworth's testing missed a fifth category. This was from January 2017, right, it's not in here, 2017 in the New York Times. I think it was a Sunday. It might even be in the first or second of the month. Her testing missed the fifth category. The child who runs to the returning parent because of that parent's near constant absence. She did miss that one, but I was kind of stunned. Oh, okay. Attachment theory in the New York Times, 1/8/17 issue. So I continue with my little sins of the parents. My wife says, I sound like a Catholic with the word sins. She's right. My curiosity was stirred by Detroit street gangs. Clearly, I traced this problem to the absent fathers, though I know a couple guys that the mother had left, once they were like 6 or so, and they had also a lot of problems. Neglect is an immense problem in the U.S., unrecognized or is it just suppressed? The neglected child feels rejected down to their soul. This is the silent treatment for 21 years or more. If you've ever spent a weekend under the silent treatment from your family, that's bad enough. Children become adults, but still search for a father substitute, usually in the romantic relationship. Now this is an immense error. Those who receive little attention seek it on the stage, which will be a temporary solution. Now I have a note here. Neglect. Flip that coin and you find children victimized by micromanagement, even as though it was product development. So their trust in the protective parent is ruined. I know at least one fellow like that. And he decided in high school to become an alcoholic, and he's gone through the program and is a college student now. He tells me when my punctuation is wrong when my letters I hand out. He's one of my students. They rebel to find their lost freedom or childhood. It's no joke when I say the absent parent should be placed under home arrest. Examples of my claims are not included. Well, I think they are here. Anyone can pick up family members, friends, co-workers, adults engaged in behaviors that are not average, or aberrant, even self-destructive. Use my key, neglect abuse, to reveal traumas in childhood and to analyze adults. If one were to explain an adult's aberrant behaviors to them, one should be ready to offer much support to them as they face their painful past and present journey through it. Just remembered, in the way of the music people, it wasn't centered properly. It's a song by Pat Benatar called Hell is for Children. And I love that song because it tells you so much. And that song's been around for a long time, and it never really hit me until I heard it again recently. It's a modern song called Hold On To Me, a very plaintive male singer, and you would think it was to his lover, but it's for asking for more nurturing from both his mother and his father. It's called Hold On To Me. It's a heartbreaker. With all due respect to genetically based aberrant behaviors, they are not discussed here. Whoa, I'm probably, I don't want to tread on any toes here, I'll try to explain. Gay people claim that they are born and not shaped by society, but some would be shaped by neglect or abuse. I know I have to be careful there. But in light of what I've been saying, and I do have a friend who I hardly ever talk to, I'm sorry to say, I think that was the case. She's a crusader for women, and we worked on a little newspaper for Monteith way back when. But I think that's the case. There's bullying again. Montessori, talking to a stranger on a train. It's about children learning cooperation. But why are some children asked to leave? That's alarming. The answer to this mystery is young children, must be suffering from neglect or abuse in the antisocial, needy, self-destructive behaviors it causes in children. On the train back, I'm talking to another stranger. A dog trainer reasoned that many dog owners she worked with did not follow her guidance, resulting in few improvements with the problem dogs. She went back to college to learn human psychology. Many dog owners were using the dogs as their primary relationships. Again, that's very alarming. This is emotionally logical since pets cannot betray your trust and love like a human can. This fear of heartbreak can be traced to previous marriage failures and usually back to neglect or abuse of their parents, by their parents. Suppressed in the subconscious. And people are like plants. The less plants are watered, the more problems they will have. There are different physical diseases which result from different corresponding physical childhood abuses. A woman nurse found this out. Clear causes with predictable results, also easily discovered in adult patients. I conclude that receiving enough attention from the father and mother is instinctual, vital psychologically, like food, clothing, and shelter. Therefore, the 40-hour work week limit is essential for the best child-raising habits. The absent father runs the world and ruins the child. Addendum. Groups formed to discuss problems caused by childhood neglect and abuse would be a great benefit to society. Such awareness would bring forth people with healthier heart minds who would be fine, caring parents. Heart mind, that is my term. I checked it out with my counselor recently, and she said she hadn't heard it before, but I think with my young students, high school age, that heart mind really tells them, like, think before you leave. Permission granted to copy, reprint, and republish this far and wide. Thank you. This is a 2 pages are a essential sidebar. I've handed a lot of these out free to people. It's called 2 Red Flags and 1 Green. Young women, let me summarize. You've heard of the 3 roles, I hope: parent, adult, child. Our every thought, word, and action fit into these 3 PAC. This is a simplification, or at least in the name of transactional analysis. Therefore, these 3 are your only choices you can do. You can be with your lover, friend, significant other. Adult. 2 people discuss, negotiate, compromise. So one does not win all the time. Both are relatively happy. That's just how it works. But what if the woman acts the child? She gets ordered around, restricted, cut off from friends. I've seen this. Loses chances to grow, tolerates mean treatment, but still stays. Why do they cling to a bad man? Because of the neglect of her father, most likely. She instinctively seeks a father, substitute. A missing dad feels like a dreadful rejection. Okay, so I covered adult, covered child. 18 years of the silent treatment. She needs to go to counseling to face and erase these issues. Or what if a woman takes the parent role with the lover, the significant other? In the mom role, she faces lots of work. Housework, caring for the kids, pets, and the husband. It's my other sister in her marriage. He will resent her for treating him like a child and rebel in little ways. He will seek a lover because instinct dictates to not take the mother as a sex partner. As I explained to Margot, I said, why would a man want lover and mother in the same person? What if something happens and that person's gone? They've lost two people, so to speak. Men will look for women who show this mothering weakness also. It's a 40-year-old woman in that role. Should make that guy go out and work. But he sits home and he drinks beer. This is one of my other students. He's a singer, guitarist, 18. Put his guitar away for 5 months for love. She was from a matriarchy. In this country, there is families run by patriarchy and some by matriarchy. I asked about her dad. That was my first red flag. When she would, turns out gone when she was 12. And, when she turned about 12, he disappeared. I said red flag. 6 months later, he comes to see me to tell me he tried to kill himself because she chose another lover who she also left, went off to college. This behavior shows a lack of trust of men. Counseling long-term will establish that trust, I believe. The Me Too movement, decades overdue. Feminism concentrated on economic independence, less so on the psychological, though they did say the personal is political, and that phrase needs to be revived. No woman wants the unwelcome touch, the sexual joke, or lose a job over a sexual favor. But when such negative behaviors from men occur within a love relationship, some women stay hoping to reason with the man, of course it's not always a man, with the goal of a deep, healthy relationship. Sort of gamble, sort of, if I try, I can make a change. So you have to admire in people. How long they stay and try depends on the success or failure of the relationship with their fathers, I believe. Because they could be chasing after dad with a man. I have an example of that, one of my closer friends. In a January 2018 New Yorker, I'm sorry I don't have the exact date, it's the New Yorker, the magazine. There is an early report of over 1,000 interviews of college students involved in sexual abuse incidents. These are women and men. Interviewers were surprised at the complexity of these encounters. Obfuscating factors were the safe or unsafe environments. Was there a bed in the room? Levels of drugs or alcohol within the people? Psychological states of the two. I think the top wrestler in the United States said at 15 she was very lonely. She went to a party, a bunch of strangers. She looked in and said to herself, "This is dangerous." And she was right, unfortunately. So, attitudes, peer pressure, misreading of the other's expectations. Thank goodness the men were included in this, because they're certainly, I guess they came forward confused. Like drunk driving cessation, this problem will need numerous approaches to stop this abuse. It may take 2 decades, they say. The report will be published as the sex report in 2019. So that's too long a wait. A sidebar. Priests look for boys with missing fathers. Extremely, extremely obvious. This is my friend, my pretty good friend. So she stopped emailing me once I encouraged her to go to counseling. She was 7th of 8 kids, Catholic family, so no birth control. She didn't get much attention from her dad. So looking for a strong daddy type, she slept around in college. Now this is a devout Catholic. Like with the manager of the dorm. She had a girl with a handsome guy she met in a bar. First time in bed, no condom, they were right there. The guy gave their girl almost 0 time. He had his mom watch the kid. So this girl turns 14 and gets a boyfriend. Of course, that's too soon. So he shapes her into his ideal woman. At 22, time to get married. Mom wants grandchildren. So, no surprise, she's clinically depressed. After counseling, she tells the guy to go to hell. But shortly after moves in with another fella, and recently I heard, I think that's the fella she married. She must be 26. Too soon. She's still looking for that daddy, both of them. Back to the girl's mom. My addendum here, my buddy, the mother, had me draw a Father's Day card for her. This was quite a long time ago. She was one of 8 kids. It showed her tugging on her dad's sleeve saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," trying to get a little attention from him. Back then we thought it was somewhat amusing. After many years of dating, she marries a strong, take-charge Catholic. She even wears a little medallion. A daddy type, a leader type. He ignores her interests and her beloved pets. See, there's somebody placing their love in the animals who aren't going to criticize them. After a year, resentment builds, so no more sex. She wanted 7 or 8 kids. At 48, she's now 50, she has only the one girl who tells her to divorce the guy. What? Divorce daddy? Why else stay with the guy? He's the strong, missing dad. Also, he's an intolerant, right-wing Catholic with all the biases. He's also paranoid. She's liberal and stopped going to church with him. Mother and daughter both suffering because of the missing father. This is awful. She stays because his daughters think she's cool, and hopefully to encourage his boy to be a little more liberal in his thinking about women and gays. I urged her to go to counseling. That ended our friendship except for birthday cards. She didn't get anything she wanted. At 50, she's dragging hubby into counseling now that the kids are gone. I just emailed her and I said, "Counseling!" exclamation points. "Yes!" exclamation points, and she didn't email me back. So, would that take her almost 25 years to follow my advice? something from a personal health column by Jane Brody. This is rather an old article, just a summary. That parental love and support are constant. Material rewards should not be used as a stand-in for emotional warmth and parental attention. Engage children in discussions, not lectures. So old notes. Other notes. Shoplifter, thief, shopaholic. That's what this one is called. I deliver these occasionally to open mics where I go, but I certainly have some humorous things kind of sandwiching the negative stuff, so it's more tolerable. Last week I mentioned my letter to Billy Joe of Green Day, band, Green Day, famous band. And I'll let you know the results. But I threw in consumerism and pollution with the sins of the parents. There's another tragedy of parenting, Billy Joe of Green Day. And some of his music really shows a mess. But I threw in consumerism and pollution with the sins of the parents. Maybe you think I've lost it. And no, I don't think sins of the parents causes severe weather. Okay, now, I'm a former shoplifter and cash register skimmer. And I'm talking about me. Am I getting more nervous? I was trying to find a replacement for the affection I didn't get from my parents. A big problem. Since I'd never felt affection in any form, I didn't know what I was looking for. I needed something to fill an empty space in my heart. Stealing was the simplest thing I could do. I think I started when I was 35 and ended when I'm about 55. So stealing was the simplest thing to do, to receive something from the universe somehow that I didn't get as a kid. I got caught a couple of times, but I didn't stop stealing until I saw a local CVS, as it was more like a person, specifically as the kind black woman cashier in photo. That's what made me stop. So, shoplifter, thief, is there any difference other than the value of what's taken? Can I say both are looking for something to fill an empty space in their hearts? They sure aren't seeing themselves in other people's eyes. Maybe theft is anger, maybe revenge. Now, my aunt was a shopaholic. I'll see something here. And I'm including hoarders here. Proudly mentioned at her funeral, please know that she was a shopaholic. I know zero about her parents, but I know stuff about her husband. His hobby was bouncing other women in their beds. Handsome, so he must have earned the nickname. Oh, we'll skip that. She knew. He gave sex, but not love to women, and her too. She filled in her empty heart buying tons of stuff, buying as therapy. Also overeating and drinking. I remember her obese and laying on the floor on her stomach to make herself feel better after a lot of food and drink. Diabetes took her foot first. The more you buy, the more junk ends up in the landfills, incinerators, and in the air. Oh, excuse me, sins of the parents do cause severe weather and climate change. Skip that word. Thanks, Aunt Marie. You made a mess and then left us to clean it up. I could say that about my parents, too. Yeah, my God. My story. Oldest of 5. Mom wanted 3. But Dad, he had ADD and refused a vasectomy. Never a hug, never, and I love you. I watched too much TV, but I wrote and made art which I think is, creativity is an incredible thing. At 17, thinking of ways of killing myself. 4th child fought with both child number 3 and 5. I wanted to marry and have no children. Parenthood was drudgery. That, of course, is my experience. I wanted nurturing from my wife and that she not give it to kids. I even had a super kid t-shirt. Super kid. No wonder I couldn't get a date. My first girlfriend was from a family with an alcoholic dad. The mom learned not to talk to people. Her conversation was hi, and that was it. Girlfriend was an ocean of emotion. A little counseling was not enough. She moved to Ann Arbor. Second girlfriend, parents were emotionally distant. She slept around, quit work. Her next boyfriend was fun and cute, and she could have hung on to him. I think she should have hung on. And he moved away, never to return, a shattered heart. Second girlfriend apologized to me 28 years later. She must have fallen in love finally. Third girlfriend wanted kids. Fourth girlfriend is my wife of 38 years. I did mention that I was shoplifter. No kids, no regrets. No surprise, since parenthood would have been drudgery for me. I would have handed my children art supplies and said, don't bother me, I'm busy. So I know I wouldn't have been a good dad. 2 years ago, I realized my parents had such a strong hand in this decision. Surprise. Who's a blank slate? That's what this one is called. So you're finally out of the family home. These are to my young students. You're free of their annoying take on life. Really. Look at the 14-year-old girl with her boyfriend till 22, depressed, counseling, no marriage. All her decisions, her dad rarely in her life, so she loved a guy, mixing him up with an absent dad. Or the guy who sees women as sex toys. His decision, mom died when he was very young. He had little memory of her. I've heard him at the microphone a few times. You say love to him and he hears sex. She ruined his trust by leaving him. Or the person who always is looking for the next high. Their choice, they assume they are trying to erase negative neglect or abuse. Aretha, and this was written in over a year ago, chose attention with her singing, and also this influenced her gaining weight. Are these her decisions to go public and the eating? No, not with a mom gone and many of dad's girlfriends coming and going. Like the comic Steve Martin, seeking attention not given by the parents. Or a man, maybe 35, who drank himself to death. His choice, not after he saw a murder in his family as a child. Sometimes I read too fast. Or a woman who had sex with all the guys, and at 30 she meets a man to live with, but no sex life for 40 years. Is this all their choice? All her choice? No. She never met her dad. She has one now. Oh, am I in here again? People, high all the time, are trying to hide from young trauma. Now find a counselor who will help you out of the sins of your parents. Don't get in a serious relationship without cleaning that junk out of your mind, heart. Be full-time parents and part-time workers. Teen guy, read about this. Teen guy, no seatbelt, drives through the stop sign. The truck hits, he's dead. Rebellious actions, what made him act so carelessly? His kindergarten teacher, gym teacher, not enough discipline, maybe too many rules on him. by parents. He made 2 bad decisions. Or did he? How much of his decisions were influenced by his parents' mistakes? 50%? 70%? This young man was a lot like a puppet, a parental puppet, and he didn't know it. We learn from other people's mistakes and impatience. Find a good counselor and talk about the good and bads of your living with your parents. If you have lots of failed relationships, go to counseling. Cut those bad strings. This may be somewhat of a repeat. This again is, call it dogs are like people. Dogs don't betray your trusting heart like people can hurt you. It's a bigger risk with people. So this dog trainer woman realized with some counseling, get the woman to detach herself, her heart from the dog, and attach more to the man. Glasses, you got to negotiate and compromise with dogs too, I have read. It can't be a total dictatorship over the dog. That's interesting. Temptations of the road, travel to sell music, or art. I'm trying to remember here. Well, musicians on the road, alcohol, drugs, sex with different people, different degrees depending on the severity of the sins of your parents. Emotions obey the laws of cause and effect. Creativity sidebar. She says, let's have some fun today. And I say, let's stay home and I can create something. She says, let's do some work tomorrow. And I say, yeah, I'll stay home and create something. This is really, calls up the dopamine, which is, I read recently, is good for the Parkinson's people. They introduce them to creating once they have a full-blown case. And the dopamine they create from creativity gives them a high, calms them down, does a lot of wonderful things. He rarely saw his dad. This is my ex-brother-in-law, who was managing a gas station. He must have felt terribly rejected. So he was the rule breaker, the rebel without a cause. My parents said not to marry him, but my sister did anyways. Pretty soon, he accumulated so many traffic tickets he lost his license. My sister bought his cars under her name. He drove without a license. He wore his cardboard halo and followed the rules, just like a good little boy. He was too controlling of my sister and the niece, who learned kickboxing early. Kid did. On drug runs, he had his daughter hide down in the back seat. My mom lent him money when he was short. He paid very little of it back. The three of them, my sister and this guy and the daughter, yelled at each other quite often. He was goofy funny lots of times, but his anger built up until he assaulted her. He got 4 years in prison. She remarried some guy with a cool Mustang. She was like a starry-eyed zombie for a long time. My sister didn't divorce him after he paid my niece for sex. Again, probably looking for daddy, because he was the daddy substitute. My parents wanted to stop at three, so she and my little brother were kind of neglected. I played dad to my little brother quite a lot. And I would say, okay, you got choice A, B, and C. And this is what will happen if you choose each of those, so you go and decide. The fifth and the fourth, those two, they fought a lot over the affection that wasn't there. So you new adults, women, be careful you don't get with a guy who's a daddy substitute. Maybe it's not too late to pull your dad closer. This is my niece. Dear Alexa, I can feel sorry for your dad, Mike. Dad was always gone at the gas station. So his kids can have all the stuff to make them happy.
Mr. Taylor, you told me to tell you when we have 15 more minutes. So you can...
I'm sorry, did I say 15? 5?
Yes, you said 15 minutes.
Oh.
So you wanted time for questions.
Can I go for 5 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. I realized he felt very, very rejected by his dad. We all need both parents' loving attention to make us balanced in our hearts. Your dad had a damaged heart in the emotional way. He also had, I think he was bipolar. And of course my niece is a bucket of toxic genetics. And when I say sterilization, nobody will agree with me. Feel happy your dad did booze and drugs. Not be emotionally for you even when he was in the same room with you. So you tried shoplifting to hide your heart pain from yourself, just like Mike. He got some fathering from his jailer, and his dad, the gas station denizen, he felt very guilty, but it was far too late. You're attracted to any boyfriends because you need some fathering. That doesn't work. Counseling. Ask a man counselor, not a woman. It'll probably help. When Gail, my sister, asked, why did you stay with LJ's abuse? Why? And you said, I don't know. I know. You needed a daddy substitute. Some heartfelt fathering, something that would have been better than getting high. So she got rid of him. So make Mike give you more time together and get some hugs and loving attention he did not give you before. This is part of your heart repair. There's Mr. Billy Joe of Green Day. I wrote to him, and he put out, in the middle of his career, a triple album that was, according to my overmanaged student, crap, to clean that up a bit. I knew this guy, handsome poet, father, drunkard, so his heart and mind weren't there for his daughter. His ex-wife told him that his daughter was a prostitute. I guess so she got some sort of lame fathering. Okay, I think I've covered him. Eric Baldwin, the actor, you may know him better as Trump on Saturday Night Live. He didn't get enough attention. This is an article, and his 6 kids. And he conjectures that he went into acting to get some attention. Oh, my wife's friend is a hoarder, spending thousands of dollars yearly on storage of hundreds of boxes of useful items. The boxes are all unlabeled. Why? Because her father at 84 still hasn't grown 1 ounce of heart. There's a lot of science in sins of the parents. We've all seen pearls. They're beautiful. Okay, now you know how pearls are formed in the clam. The pearl forms around a particle that gets in the clam. It's It's an irritant. So in the making of a music star, the irritant is the neglect, the rejection by the parent. Certainly a parallel. This is a pet peeve. Music stars and the military and others try to pull people in by using the word family. Family, a good one, is an ideal, but the word is neutral. It's a collection of people, positives and negatives, so they can learn to negotiate and compromise. Then take this out into the world. Negotiate, compromise. Without these skills, you live in unhappiness. But people have different opinions and experiences of family. So some people will run away from the promise of family. That's probably me. I'm not sure. I'm on the border on that one. This one I should not forget over many years. Separating children from their parents, I think, is barbaric. It's a terrorist tactic to scare Mexicans back across the border. The Washington Post declares it traumatically, physically akin to shrapnel, and psychologically for the parent-child bond of human biology. Like replacing a 100-watt bulb for a 30-watt one. That's what we have in these children. I think my wife said 12,000. Resulting malfunctions are loss of the sense of safety, anxiety, depression, alcohol abuse, criminal activity, akin to post-traumatic stress syndrome. This also casts a red warning light on adopting anyone who needs adoption, though, of course, they need it. And I've heard stories of the adopted children going crazy at 14 or 15. Now, this is marked later. I think I'm doing good with my time here. The lost parent, counterintuitive. This is trying to add some upbeat. Recently I talked about filling in someone to replace the missing or drugged or drunk parent. Someone of the same sex. It's instinctual. So big surprise, people who have a big need for that missing parent, most people would actually take on that very role. I don't know whether it's most. I would say some people would actually take on that very role of the missing parent. They will do their best to be the mom or the dad role they were deprived of. So there is some contact with the missing parent by taking that place. Why does this happen? Because that's the only way that you can be in touch with that nurturing role, even if they have to become the nurturer themselves. I think in this case, Mother Nature has designed us so well to seek a balance so we can grow, and I think that's amazing. My last bit here, half a page. I've mentioned hugging as a good start to get that tenderness and patience back in your family. Another thing is vulnerability. Like when you are dating, you start out talking about fun and common interests, friends and family stuff, then the personal stuff like goals, hopes, and fears. You'd have to start that with your family, but everybody else has to do the same thing at the same time. Light stuff, then the more personal. Key phrase is at the same time, or otherwise I don't think that's going to work. Equally vulnerable at the same time. You build trust and love. And don't forget forming a family from your friends. A friendsily, as Jacob would say, the fellow I mentioned earlier who tried to kill himself. I'm not against an acid trip with trusted friends. It just can't make you a creative genius. I've also, my higher lecture on creativity, you can find rock stars who found that the getting high didn't help them a damn bit in the way of their creativity. So I'm kind of the unfun guy there. I'd like politicians to look at the world through the lens of male responsibility. Too many laws allow men to be little boys, skip out on their responsibilities. Recent laws that eliminate general assistance and driver's license tied to child support are long overdue. Those should be there to keep the father in the family. Economic incentives to keep the men in the home, to make a family, prevent youth from joining gangs, to feel that sense of family. Require men to go to parenting classes. Drugs and alcohol weaken that closeness. Let's have more laws that keep men in the home, prevent abuse. This is from 1996 that I wrote. The past 5 years, I met so many children and adults, age 4 to 40, who wanted me to be their substitute father. I could quit work and do nothing else. Let's all try to see this problem is all around us. Where are the nurturing men? Okay, thank you for listening.
We have about 5 minutes for questions, so if you have a question, please ask it quickly so that we can get as many over there.
Yes.
I'm in no rush,
Yes,
though I'm a
I-
little scared right now.
No, thank you for your research and talk. You mentioned there's a report being published in 2019.
Yep.
Who did the report and where is it being published?
I think these are psychologists and a certain students. I'm not remembering the college. Over 1,000 students. I did mention earlier, this year when it was published, I think it was January, and it's called, I think, the Sex Report, I said, in 2019, and it will talk about the complications of really changing society and therefore individual men's perceptions. And like I mentioned, so sometime in 2017, the Sex Report. There's a title that'll bring everybody in, and some of them are going to be a little disappointed. But like drunk driving, there's numerous approaches to getting people to stop. I think better seat belts, more awareness, more arrests, airbags. In publishing, when somebody goes to jail for that, I lost my nephew to the drunk driving father about 15 years ago, and he went to jail, and the child went to the graveyard. So changing people's perceptions and shoring up their weaknesses before they go out into the world. There's a woman here who I talked to, employed by Wayne State, who seems more very manipulated and easy manipulated, and I told her at least learn self-defense to give yourself some confidence so that the men can't push you around, because in a college situation you'll find some men who are going to push you around, and you certainly won't like it. So this Sex Report is coming out, but I really wish that they didn't say how long this is going to take. It's kind of depressing, but it's everywhere in society. As you can see from the Me Too movement, it's kind of everywhere. All right.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, over
Yeah, I
there.
just wanted to ask you, how do you manage to speak, very well, like
Speak well.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know. There's a little froggy in my throat, and I haven't read some of these things in a while. Thank you. I'd give myself a B- in my reading and speaking abilities. Thank you.
Any of the students over here?
Okay, I know nothing of you. This is my first time hearing about you. some of your studies was like in the 1990s and things like
Well,
that.
That last one, some of the ideas last from there.
Okay, but it's funny that it's resurfacing again, and so the problem is, it seemed to be it's more prevalent now. It was going on back then, it was just hidden, and now I see that you're offering counseling to the people, that you're telling them to seek counseling for these situations.
I'm not a counselor.
Okay,
I can name things, but I can't cure people.
okay.
So, and I've done some on my own to become a more sociable person. Like to trust parents, you know, that stuck me at home. But there was always drawing and writing to do. It's funny how this has kept resurfacing over 25 years.
Yeah,
I must have identified with it somehow subconsciously. And I don't know what happened. Somewhere along the line, it just sort of came together. It was Father's Day, though. About right around that week, I thought, I can feel something coming up, some problem. And I don't know, just occasionally reading rock stars and famous people. It just all sort of came together. I was just reading more. But I wish I'd come to these things sooner, but I told my classes, my students, I said, you know, speaking of this study from 1967, I said, one, it's great to have this kind of support, and two, that I was talking about it 6 months before it came out, and the third, I said, is I'm not going to break my wrist patting myself on the back for it. So, this is the entire thing back in front if anybody just wants a copy. So I wish I'd come to it sooner, but you know, this is a multiverse up here. I sew, I paint, I cartoon, I write bad poetry most of the time. I have a wife that demands attention, as she should. And so I get better at everything slowly in a sort of blip, blip, blip. Go back to that subject, you go blip. So it's a multiverse up here, and it's pretty hairy sometimes.
There's a question, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, actually I did. So I came in pretty late, but from what you were saying, you feel as though women try to find a father figure within men by nurturing the man, basically to give him that love so they can receive that love that they never had.
Now that is a connection that I didn't include here, but I think after listening to everything, you could say that is true in some cases. I had originally said, and I think you have a good point. I think that's possible, and it does happen, but the fact that, say you've been dating somebody for a short time, you're having problems, you figure this is your person, this is your significant other, you're going to marry this person, you're going to have children with them, that it's worth investing more time and maybe money to make this work. Now, that's a different attitude. That's a little more conscious and reasonable, coming from reasoning, where I'm going to mother this person and pull them in. I think that's going to backfire. I think it's going to backfire. It's just not, you have three ways that you can behave. You can be the parent, you can act like a child, or you can act like an adult. An adult negotiates and compromises. And nobody gets everything, and nobody is the loser all the time. This is not perfection. This is just being real and respecting the other person. So, that's the only thing that's gonna work. I would discourage anybody from going into a relationship to nurture the person because it makes them feel good or gives them a little something that they didn't get. So I would rather they stay with some problems to try to fix the problems. Probably go to counseling, fix the problems because you've already invested 6 months or a year. And that is a more intellectual adult approach.
Throughout the entire discussion, or through your entire speech, you kept saying go to counseling, go to counseling, go to counseling. What if that doesn't work?
Well, I know Wayne State, I had invited my counselor and whoever else, I don't think any of them are here, invited the South End, maybe put this in a report in the paper, I don't think anybody showed up. But what if counseling doesn't work? Now, at Wayne State, they don't do family counseling. You can't go in and sign up for a year to get everybody, repaired and in functioning order. That's why I mentioned family and children's services. They're really emphasizing the relationship between the parents and the child. The worse the problems in the young family, the longer it's going to take. John Lennon went to counseling, he went to screen therapy. I have my doubts about that. It's even in one of his songs. So, the depth of the problem is a mathematical problem that dictates how long you will be in counseling. And I think they even say if the man won't go, like my other brother-in-law, you go. The wife goes. So, talking about parents who made a mess and left us behind, that's my parents. Out of the 5 of us kids, there almost was 6. The 5 of us, the oldest and the youngest, have a decent, or no, I would say very good relationships with the spouse. The other 3, there's my alcoholic brother, who also has ADD, thanks Dad. My next sister married an alcoholic. He decided he's not going to counseling, that's why I bring him up. And then the 3rd one married to the philanderer, 2nd failed marriage. So, Mom and Dad, of course, had no patience or tolerance or talents in being parents. They probably learned from their parents. And I haven't passed that on. But I just think, I believe that there's enough counseling available to change people, put them back on track. Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing to yourself. You don't know why you're doing that? This is why you're doing that. Stop. So I don't think that is a useful question because I just believe that with enough counseling. But if there is someone who is that bad, I'm going to guess they're going to end up in jail. And they will have parenting there. Not of the positive side. So, and I don't know what's going to happen to these Mexican kids. They're going to, have all these problems. Their 100-watt bulb has been removed and a 30-watt put in. I don't know. I think they're people who just really are hopeless after every effort are going to end up doing physical work, and they'll be in prison somewhere, so they won't have the opportunity to hurt people. I suppose it is a fairly good question. I think they will be incarcerated. Even after we lighten up on all these laws, which are oppressive to our African American community. So they'll do physical work, they'll be useful. Class.
Shall we thank him? And finally, and then, I guess he said he's not in a hurry,
I'm not,
so that you might go and chat with him.
thank you. Thank you for